Hey Facebook, it's Kristen Odell, just coming to you live for a quick chat about childhood obesity. So this week I've been focusing a lot on sugar and sugar addiction, and I want to touch on the childhood obesity epidemic because I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, but a big thing is the sugar that our kids eat. A little background about me is that partly how I got involved in clean eating and making some lifestyle changes was really just due to my son Oliver. When I first had Oliver, he was a baby and I was busy. I went back to work and I really didn't have a lot of time to cook, even though I liked cooking. But it was just so hard to manage all of that and be a working mom that I used to go through the drive-thru every day after I was finished with work, and I would come home with fast food for Jay and I. And when Oliver started eating food as a baby, about 6-7 months, he would reach out and try to take the french fries off our plate, and I wouldn't let him have it. And I would give him healthy food. I would make him healthy baby food and give him other healthy choices. It's not that I didn't know what to eat, I just wasn't eating it myself. So I would prepare him something healthy, but I would come home with something fast food or unhealthy for me and my husband. And seeing him try to eat my food and me not letting him eat it really sort of was a aha moment for me. And I decided, why is it okay for me to eat this food and I won't let him eat it? Why is it okay for me to put it in my body when I don't think it's good enough for him to put in his body? And I just thought, I don't want him growing up seeing me eat like this. And if I don't want to have him eat it, I shouldn't be eating it either. Not just to set a healthy example, but also because it's not good for me and I wanted to be around for him for a long time. That really set me off on my quest to learn a little bit more about healthy eating and nutrition. Up until that point, I had really been able to lose weight on a lot of different fad diets, but never able to keep it off for a long period of time. And I was always very active. I could always work out, and lose weight and get fit and toned. But again, if I wasn't eating right, nutrition is really 80% of the game. If you're just working out and you're not worrying about your nutrition, it's never going to last. That was also something I learned throughout my journey. But anyway, sitting here and refusing to feed him fast food really set me off on learning a little bit more about nutrition for my own health. And as a nurse, people think we know this stuff already, and a lot of times we don't. We're taught one day of nutrition in nursing school, and it's very lightly touched upon. We're not nutritionists. We know some nutritionists, but we're not really taught that in school. And so I started learning a lot about clean eating. But to bring it back, to my topic tonight of childhood obesity, that was my starting factor. That was my push to try to learn about this, was to make myself, my own lifestyle and my home healthier for my children. And I wanted them growing up from day one seeing healthy eating. That doesn't mean that everything in my fridge and my house is totally clean. We have processed foods, we have sweets. We're not perfect here either, but I try to start them off right. Reading some of the statistics about why childhood obesity is so prevalent in the US, I think we're the top 2 country for childhood. I know for obesity overall, I believe Mexico is before us, and then we're the second. But a big thing of that is sugar consumption and basically diet. And the secondary thing would be for their activity level. But this statistic said that 1 in 5 infants drink soda. As a neonatal nurse practitioner, that just made my skin crawl, because I know what children are supposed to eat and when they're supposed to eat it, but maybe the general public doesn't know. And the guidelines in the American Academy of Pediatrics is that they should have nothing but breast milk or formula for the first year of life as far as drinking goes. Once they reach 6 months, they can start having some foods, soft foods, vegetables, fruits, things like that. But still, they drink formula or breast milk. And at their first birthday, you can start with cow's milk. And you don't want to start much earlier than that with the cow's milk, because sometimes their kidneys and liver can't digest certain things in the cow's milk properly. Their guts just aren't ready for the cow's milk. So once they reach about a year, then they can have cow's milk, whole milk. It's your choice whether or not you want to feed organic or not. I choose organic. It is more expensive. But I just feel like a huge amount of my children's diet is made up of milk for that, year 1 to year 2. They're drinking so much cow's milk that I just wanted the least amount of antibiotics and other additives that to it. I wanted it as pure as possible. So I choose organic for that, at least that second year of life, that year 1 to year 2. Once they get to 2 years old, they can go to 2% or 1%. If your child is overweight at 1, then they can drink 2% milk between 1 and 2 years old. But typically it's whole milk. It's going to be breast milk and formula from 0 to 1 year old. And 1 to 2 year old, they're going to be drinking whole milk. 2 years and older, they can drink 2% or 1%, but probably 2% is best. If you're having questions about this, talk to your pediatrician for sure. But definitely don't give your baby soda. 1 in 5 infants drink soda. That's crazy. No, not even children should really get soda. I mean, I think Oliver's had a sip of soda and he actually thought it was gross, which I was happy about because he really never had it. Another interesting stat is 50% of the children who are overweight actually remain overweight in their adult years. So, this is habits they're learning so young, and they're continuing to eat this way when they're older and they're able to make their own choices. They're continuing to make choices that they were, taught when they were little. And there's also not enough vegetables being eaten. We got to feed our kids veggies from day 1 so that they grow up eating them and preferring them rather than trying to introduce them later on. It's harder that way. Kids really shouldn't be drinking sugar sweetened drinks. I mean, it's really the drinks. We need to focus on what we're giving them to drink. They should be really drinking water. No juice. Juice is bad. Soda is bad. And really diet drinks are bad too. And I'll get to that in another post about why you want to stay away from some of the other types of sugars like sucralose and some of the other aspartame, things like this. It says no sugar on the back of it, but using the sugar substitutes can still fuel sugar addictions, and it's still a dangerous game to play. So really your kids should just be drinking water and milk occasionally, but not too much milk because that also has sugars in it. So you want to limit that a little bit. And of course, the biggest thing with childhood obesity is to make sure they're getting physical activity. In today's world, they're so all about the computers. I mean, we know all of this. My kids love their iPads and their computers and their phones, and they're tiny. But I'm definitely going to encourage them to be active with sports and things like that. And we do try to get out and hike, but kids need to have a lot more energy expended through sports and outdoor activities. And the consequences of not doing these things, of not controlling their diet and of not making them get active, they end up with fatty liver, which can lead to gallstones. They actually can have heartburn, which if you've ever had heartburn, it's really terrible. It's awful. And to have an obese child and have them have heartburn, they can have high blood pressure, which is very scary for a child. They can actually have joint problems. I've seen this in a overweight child who having joint problems, and it's extremely sad. And of course, they can develop type 2 diabetes. The amount of children that are developing type 2 diabetes is very sad. Years ago, they hardly had this because the kids were not as overweight as they are today. And then eventually they can also have breathing problems at night, and it can exacerbate other things like asthma and things like that. So it's not just that they're overweight. It really goes into so much more than just the weight. It really reflects on a lot of their entire body and all of their systems. So we just, and the sad thing about it is a lot of this is controlled by the parent. And so, yes, I know when they're older and they're going to school, they do have to make some of their own choices, and we need to teach them that. But some of these children aren't even in school. They're really young. They're 4, they're 5, they're little, and they're overweight and obese. And that comes from our decision. So we have to make ourselves educated, and we need to make sure we take a stand for our children. No soda, limit the juice. Chocolate milk. Chocolate milk's a big one in my house, and Oliver drinks way too much of it, and we're going to work on this. But it's really a lot of sugar for them. And if you really look into how much they're supposed to be getting in a day, which is really 10 to 12 grams of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of chocolate milk, like the chocolate syrup you put in the milk, is 10 grams of sugar. It's almost their entire daily sugar intake is in 1 spoonful of the chocolate to make the chocolate milk. They shouldn't get any more sugar after that. And there are natural sugars in everything. So once you give them that chocolate milk, it's almost like they can't eat anything after that. So stay away from things like that. Don't add things to the milk. Just give them juice. I mean, no juice. Just give them water. And if you give them juice, it should be very, very watered down. But I hope that might have answered some questions as far as what the kids should be drinking. Keep them active, get them to eat their veggies, and teach them these things when they're young. Start when they're really little and let it be all they know from the moment they grow up. That was my goal with my journey, and so far I'm doing okay with it since Oliver loves his broccoli. But thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all of you that were here live, and make sure to check out my blog on this. I'll post a link below. Have a great night.